Praise the Lord, saints and friends. This is Elder Adrian Heyman on this President's Day, where we celebrate the President of the United States. At first, it was essentially separate: George Washington's birthday, Abraham Lincoln's birthday. I remember that as a child, that those 2 days were pretty close together. Washington's Day, Lincoln's birthday. And then because of other holidays that have been added, they decided to combine them both and to call it President's Day, which is okay. We should give honor to whom honor is due. Those who have served our country, I have no problem in observing those days. The issue that I have right now is essentially dealing with how we have corrupted our country to pacify the desires, the fears, and the, I would dare say, gluttony of a few people. And to me, that is very sad. Case in point, dealing with, and I know people, get this, it's just, we keep dealing with this, the Epstein files, as they go on and on and on, and more things are revealed. First thing I want to make sure people understand, from my point of view, unless they have committed a crime, and unless, again, they may not have had a great sense of being able to understand that the person that they were hanging around with was a pedophile. But as distasteful that may be, it's not a crime unless you know the person was committing a crime, and unless you were indulging in it yourself. So two things: the person was committing a crime and you didn't report it, or number two, you participated in the crime yourself. Now, there are many people that were mentioned in the Epstein files. And the other thing what bothers me about this is that it was, at one time, it was going to be dismissed, or if it was going to be prosecuted, only those who were of one political persuasion was going to be prosecuted. That means Democrats. And it also leads me to the idea that people have thought so much that Democrats, they're the ones who were it was like every Democrat has this condition of loving little children, wanting to do things to them. And this whole thing, Pizzagate, that was so ridiculous. But many people believed it, that a piece of pizza, if you said pepperoni, certain type of child, if it was a mushroom, another type of child, and so on. All these codes. And to me, it was just embarrassing. Then a man had to come down to, I believe it was Philadelphia, at this pizza joint where they thought that they were doing things downstairs or whatever, and found there was nothing going on with it, as we thought it was a regular pizza joint. But those type of things, though, that they were blaming them on Democrats. I would dare say that anybody who is in this world has a propensity for their minds to be corrupted. Doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. Doesn't matter whether you're black or white. The same propensity towards depravity takes place regardless. So essentially, to me, if you are really serious about prosecuting people in association with the Epstein pedophile ring, then get everybody, but do it right. Again, you may bring up some names that didn't participate, but they were there. Then in public opinion, they could say they were nasty, they were horrible, and so on. But again, let's do it as the names come out, and don't attach what party they represent, because it doesn't matter. See, the things that people think that political parties dictate the mind of the person, that if they're a Democrat, they're this way. If they're Republican, they're this way. Or they're communist, they're this way. If they're fascist, they're this way. It doesn't matter what political party you are in. Sin and the resulting moral decay as a result of letting it take place, that essentially should be seen. But we've politicized it. There was a time when the president said himself that he's to go after, not go after the people who were involved with this, to go after the Democrats. Now, what do you mean, go after the Democrats? Don't you mean go after anyone and everyone who are participating in this? But no, said the Democrats, which lets you know that it's about politics, not about justice. And when politics gets in the way of justice, justice becomes flawed. It becomes essentially useless, except as a battering ram to take out as many people of the opposing party or the opposing faction as possible. But if you're doing the same thing that you're accusing others of, aren't you just as guilty? And shouldn't you be punished just as fervently as the others? That, to me, is where the Epstein files should center upon. And a few days ago, the Attorney General of the United States, her name is Pam Bondi, and the congressmen or women were throwing all types of questions at her, and she was babbling back. Some people say, yeah, that's why she gave it what for them. Didn't really give an answer for what their questions were. And maybe they were trying to entrap her, but that's on both sides. They do it all the time. So I've seen Republicans trying to entrap. I've seen Democrats trying to entrap. But the idea is that essentially they're going to pursue their agenda. But the key here, though, is the justice that should have been sought. Because there were people who were victims of Epstein that sat in a particular area. And while they had wanted an acknowledgement of their pain that they had been through since they were those little kids, and by little kids I mean they were underage, 14, 15, 16, they were just starting to develop. And be honest, some people like young girls because essentially they started to develop and somehow they seem to be more pure. But after you do whatever you do to them, they're not pure anymore. So so essentially you've just deflowered them. You've just messed up their minds. And for what? For that one time of pleasure that I want someone who's pure. That's nasty. I'll say it again. That's nasty. I don't care if Obama did it. And I wouldn't care if essentially Biden did it. If they did it, then they should go to prison. But no one's blaming Biden. No one is blaming Obama. They are concerned about our current president. Now, if he didn't do anything, and his major problem was he hung around with a pedophile and continued to hang around with a pedophile for some time, even though he may not have done anything, then if there's a doubt in it, then either don't prosecute him or make sure you have all the facts straight before you even think of prosecuting him. However, if he did do something, if he did have relations with underage women, because we do know that our president was at one time a womanizer. And it's not necessarily the most horrible of things to happen. It never happened before. JFK was a womanizer. And people knew about his womanizing. And there were other presidents that did the same thing, but they did it on the sly. So it's not about him being a womanizer. It's him being a pedophile. That you got to someone who cannot give their consent because they're underage. No consent can be given. So if he did something, then prosecute, yeah, persecute too, but mainly prosecute our president. Well, but doesn't he have immunity? He shouldn't have immunity from that. He shouldn't. If he does, that's an injustice. But again, the key is does the testimony and the documents and whatever is going forth tell you, do they tell you that he did it at least one time? All you do is do it one time. And we think about it. We got America's dad, Bill Cosby, for the things he did to women because he gave them drugs that essentially lessened their capacity to say, no, Bill, I don't want to do this. But they prosecuted him. I believe that because there was some type of, because they had made a deal with one of the prosecutors that essentially he wasn't supposed to be charged. And once he gave his testimony, I think they overturned his prison sentence. But they know he did it. And so he's not America's dad anymore. Why? Because he did actions that were totally against what a dad of any nationality should be doing, much less America's dad. And this is a guy that was very popular. Now he's like a byword. You hear of him, you say, oh yeah, that pedophile, or that, not rapist, but that abuser of women. But pedophilia is worse because you are putting yourself on someone who doesn't have, under the law, the mental capacity to say yes. Underage don't have the capacity to say yes. Even if they do say yes, don't do it. That's actually what it should be. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's the key. It shouldn't be politicized. That's what I'm trying to get to. The Epstein files should reveal all of those who participated in these crimes. But it should be as they participated in the crimes, not their association, as bad of a judgment as that may be. It's not a crime to know someone who's a pedophile. Bad judgment, yes. Crime, no. if you don't know that he was a pedophile. But if you knew, again, the same, here he goes again, one last time. If he knew that he was a pedophile and didn't alert the authorities, or if you partake in the same activity as the pedophile, then yes, you should be prosecuted. And I don't care who you are, Republican, Democrat, whatever. It's a disgrace to our country, and add this even further, it's a disgrace to God that you would do something of that nature. It's a disgrace to God. I don't care how many Christians try to make excuses for it. There is no excuse. It wasn't an excuse when you thought Democrats were doing it. It's not an excuse when Republicans do it. And it's definitely not an excuse if the president did it. Last word. Let the facts show themselves and go from there. That's all we got to do. Let the facts show themselves and let justice take it from there. May God bless you. May He keep you. Take care of yourselves, and especially those in Southern California, bundle yourselves. It's going to be a cold and wet day. In Jesus' name.